Okay, let's tackle a really big one. Safe and secure airspace. And the key technology here seems to be remote ID.
Definitely a major focus. Remote ID is basically the drone broadcasting information about itself, its location, serial number, operator registration number while it's flying. The CAA, Home Office, DFT, police, they all see it as crucial.
Crucial for what exactly?
For identifying drones in the air, it helps distinguish legitimate flights from potentially illegal or dangerous ones. It aids enforcement and, generally increases accountability and security.
There was talk initially about hybrid remote ID using network and direct broadcast. Where did that land?
The long-term goal is still hybrid ID. But the consultation raised significant concerns, mainly about the cost and complexity of setting up the network infrastructure required for the network ID part. Over 85% disagreed with mandating hybrid ID initially.
So what's the plan B, or rather plan A for now?
They're starting with direct remote ID. This means the drone broadcasts its information directly, locally, like a digital number plate. It's seen as a more achievable first step while they continue to explore the hybrid model for the future.
Okay, direct remote ID first. Which drones will need it and when?
It's being phased in. From January 1st, 2026, any new drones placed on the UK market that are UK1, UK2, UK3, UK5, or UK6 class marked will need built-in direct remote ID. Also, new UK Lear drones if they weigh 100 grams or more and have a camera.
And what about older drones or ones people build themselves?
They get a bit longer. From January 1st, 2028, the requirement extends to them too. Specifically, legacy drones, those without a UK class mark, and privately built drones will need direct remote ID if they weigh 100 grams or more and have a camera.
So quite a wide scope eventually. What about model aircraft flyers? They often fly older or custom models?
There are specific exemptions for them, recognizing the nature of their hobby. Model aircraft won't need remote ID if the flight meets certain conditions.
Such as?
The pilot needs to be an active member of a CAA-recognized Model Aircraft Association, an Article 16 club. The model itself has to be considered low risk, and the flight has to happen within a designated club flying site.
Okay, so protections for established club flying. What if your legacy or home-built drone does need remote ID after 2028, but doesn't have it built in?
You'll need to fit an add-on direct remote ID module. These are separate devices you attach to the drone, and importantly, the weight of that module counts towards the drone's total weight for categorization purposes.
Right, could potentially push you into a different category. And are there teeth to enforce this? Penalties?
It looks like it. The CAA mentions potentially creating new offenses for non-compliance, things like flying without active remote ID when required, tampering with it, or broadcasting false information.
Okay, remote ID is definitely coming, starting direct, phased rollout from 2026. What about other airspace safety tech? Geo-awareness and geofencing?
Yeah, these are also consulted on. Geo-awareness is the system warning the pilot if they're approaching restricted airspace, like an airport or prison. Geofencing is more active. It could physically prevent the drone entering that space. There's decent support for both, around 57% for each, but also concerns particularly around keeping the airspace maps up to date and, again, potential divergence from EU rules creating complexity.
So what's the implementation plan?
Similar to remote ID, it's a phased approach, starting with geo-awareness. From January 1st, 2026, it'll be required on new UK1, UK2, and UK3 drones. Then from January 1st, 2028, it'll be needed on new UKZ drones if they have a camera and weigh 100 grams or more.
And geofencing?
That's seen as more of a longer-term ambition. They'll implement geo-awareness first, gather experience, and consider geofencing later, particularly weighing up the national security benefits. It's not being mandated initially for most classes. Optional for UK5, UK6, out of scope for UK4, legacy, and private builds for now.
Okay, awareness first, fencing later. One more safety item. Flashing lights at night.
Yes, this one had very strong support, 87%. The proposal is simple. All drones, regardless of weight or class, must have an active flashing light if flying at night.
All drones, even tiny ones.
Yes. If it doesn't have one built in, you need to attach one. And again, the weight of the add-on light counts towards the drone's total weight. It's a basic visibility and safety measure, really.
Seems very sensible. Okay, let's move to the final area. How these changes aim to support the drone sector itself, including how older drones are treated. This sounds important for current owners.
Hugely important. And there's some good news here for people with existing drones. The original plan had a sort of sunset clause for legacy non-class marked drones coming in 2026, which could have restricted their use significantly.
And that's changing.
Yes. The CAA is proposing to remove that deadline. This means in most situations, you'll be able to continue flying your existing legacy drones under the current operational rules indefinitely. That avoids a lot of cost and complexity for current users.
That's a big relief for many, I'm sure. Are there any specific nuances for different legacy drone weights?
A couple. For legacy drones under 2 kilograms, you can keep flying them in the A2 subcategory near people, provided you hold an A2 certificate of competency, the A2 COFAC, and maintain that 50-meter horizontal distance from people.
Okay.
For slightly lighter legacy drones, those between 250 gram and 499 G, there's a slight restriction. They'll only be allowed in the A2 or A3 subcategories. To fly in A2, you'll still need the A2 COFAS and maintain the 50-meter distance. They won't be allowed in I1 over people anymore.
Why that specific restriction?
It's mainly to harmonize the rules, particularly for the A1 subcategory, and to avoid what the CAA sees as potential increased safety risks from having slightly heavier legacy drones flying over people without meeting the new class mark standards.
Right, a bit of a trade-off for consistency. What if someone's bought a drone that already has an EU class mark, a C0 or C1, for example?
There's a transition period for that. To help users and bridge the gap until UK-marked drones are widely available, the proposal is that EU class-marked drones can operate in the UK Open category with the same privileges as their UK equivalents until January 1st, 2028.
So your EU C1 drone can fly like a UK-1 drone here until 2028.
Exactly. It gives people time and allows the market to adjust.
Sensible. And finally, how manufacturers get their drones approved conformity assessment. Sounds like some flexibility there too initially.
Yes, particularly for the slightly higher risk classes that normally need third-party checks. For C1, C2, and C3 drones, or UK1, UK2, UK3, manufacturers will be allowed to self-declare conformity until the end of 2027 if they already have a type examination certificate from an EU-approved body.
So leveraging existing EU certification for a while.
Correct. But from January 1st, 2028 onwards, to get a UK1, UK2, or UK3 mark, they will need a type examination certificate from a UK-approved conformity assessment body.
A shift towards UK-based assessment long-term.
Yes. Although for the lower risk classes C0 UK0, C4 UK4, C5 UK5, C6 UK6 self-declaration, internal production control will remain an option regardless of EU certificates. It's trying to smooth the transition for manufacturers.
Okay. And last point here, model aircraft flying, particularly within clubs. Is that changing much beyond the remote ID aspect?
Not really. The CAA feels the current system, using Article 16 authorizations for clubs and associations, is working effectively. The consultation feedback strongly supported keeping this approach, 88% support. So, while remote ID will apply technically, as we discussed, many club operations will likely be exempt under those specific conditions.
Good news for the model flying community then. Okay, wow, we've covered a huge amount of ground there. Let's try and boil it down. What are the main takeaways?
I'd say the UK is making a really significant update. Key themes are simplification, clearer operational rules, better names, ditching the toy definition, education lowering the flyer ID threshold, much better guidance docs coming, product standards introducing UK class marks from 2026, aiming for alignment with the EU but reserving the right to differ.
And airspace security is massive too.
Absolutely. Remote ID is the big one, starting with direct ID from 2026-2028. Geo-awareness is coming too for newer drones, and that universal flashing light for night flying. Plus, crucially, support for the sector by letting legacy drones fly indefinitely in most cases and offering transitional measures for EU marks and conformity assessment.
So for you listening, hopefully this deep dive gives you a much clearer handle on these complex changes. You should now have a better picture of the future landscape for drone regulation here in the UK. It's definitely worth thinking about how these shifts might impact your own drone use or your organizations.
Yeah, and keep an eye out for the official timelines from the CAA and DFT on when the statutory instruments will be laid and these rules actually come into force.
And just to leave you with something to ponder, as these rules evolve and technology keeps racing ahead, how do we continue striking that balance? The balance between enabling all the amazing innovation drones offer and ensuring our skies remain safe and secure for everyone.
That's the ongoing challenge, isn't it? And what role will technology itself play in finding that balance in the future? Definitely food for thought.
Indeed. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.